One of the most important documents in church history I'm holding in my hand. When the prophet Joseph Smith and his brother Hyrum and the city council were on their way to Carthage to give themselves up on the charge of riot, which was the charge they were brought to Carthage on, for the destruction of the Nauvoo Expositor Press. There was no riot, but that's what they were charged at. It was carried out in a very orderly fashion after the city council declared it to be a public nuisance, ordering the mayor to destroy the press and put the Nauvoo Expositor, that had only come out with one issue, out of its misery. At any rate, I had a great aunt Ardell that told me years ago that her grandfather, Appleton Harmon, told her as a little girl that if anybody ever came up with the Expositor Press, make sure it's awful rusty, because me and my father, Jesse P. Harmon, threw it in the river. You won't read that in church history, but I think it's an interesting story and probably true. At any rate, Joseph originally thought that they get out of the heat for a little while and the fire would get a little easier after the destruction of the press. Freedom of the press became the issue of all the Mormon enemies at that time, as you know. And the prophet and Hyrum went to the little island out in the middle of the Mississippi. Now, people go to Nauvoo today, and they say, where's the island? Well, the island's still there, but the Keokuk Dam was built years later downstream, raised the elevation of the river 80 feet, and so the island's underwater now. But when they were there, they went into hiding for a period of time until finally Emma Smith, Joseph's wife, wrote a letter to the prophet saying to come give himself up because things weren't dying out. The outlying areas were being attacked by anti-Mormons. Things weren't going away. It was just something that was getting worse and worse. And she had old Porter Rockwell that took it out in a little boat to the island. When Joseph read the letter, he said, well, my friends don't think my life's of any value. It's of no value to me either. And so he said he would give himself up. And Hyrum said to him something to the effect, well, Joseph, let's go to the law. If the Lord's let us off many times in the past, he will again. And Joseph's response to his brother was, well, we'll be butchered this time, which is not, I think, what Hyrum had in mind. The Lord said early on that in the mouths of 2 or 3 witnesses shall my word be established, and this is one of those times. Joseph knew he was on the way to the end of his life, that his mission was about over on the earth. They said their goodbyes to their families. They got on their horses. In fact, there's some beautiful equestrian statues, the two of them, in front of the rebuilt Nauvoo Temple now, overlooking the town of Nauvoo. At that time, the temple wasn't finished. They got on their horses, and Joseph, in looking over the town, says, this is the best people, the best place on earth, but little do they know about what they're to go through. And he and his brother and the whole city council headed down Mulholland, the main street past the temple, out of town. And for the next 20 miles, they headed towards the capital of their enemies, which was also the capital of the county, Carthage. They got within 4 miles of Carthage, and they stopped at the Albert G. Fellows farmhouse. That was the last Latter-day Saint that had a farm on the way to Carthage, about 4 miles out of Carthage. Fellows greeted them there. They needed to water their horses. They'd been riding for about 16 miles or so. And just as they got there were about 18 of them all together in Joseph's party. There were 60 armed militia rode up and handed Joseph this paper that I have in my hand. Only back then it wasn't missing the bottom portion, which is gone now. At any rate, this paper was handed to Joseph, and Joseph read the order. The important part of this is that it was an order, and I recognize the handwriting of the order to the Nauvoo Legion. The handwriting was that of Thomas Ford, the governor of Illinois at the time. I'll read it to you. Its headquarters, Carthage, June 24th, 1844, so it's 3 days before the martyrdom. And it's addressed to Lieutenant General Joseph Smith, Major General Jonathan Dunham, and all commissioned and non-commissioned officers and privates of the Nauvoo Legion. Gentlemen, you are hereby ordered and directed to deliver to Colonel James E. Dunn 3 pieces of cannon with the carriages and other appurtenances, together with all other arms, and that part's been cut off at that point. But if you're part of a conspiracy, which the governor was, you're going to have to get rid of his army, because he's got the largest militia of any city in the United States. In fact, it's a third of the size of the United States Army. And if you really want to kill a prophet, you're probably part of a conspiracy, as Thomas Ford was the head of. You have to disarm his legion. And so this was the order to do that. As you open the thing up, there's a complete order responding to this from the prophet Joseph Smith, and it's in the handwriting of Willard Richards, who went to the jail with him. And Dr. Richards wrote this out as a scribe, and then Joseph added his signature. This is the third to the last known autograph that Joseph has left us that we know of. And it's dated Headquarters, Nauvoo Legion. It's his last Nauvoo Legion order. Prairie, 4 miles west of Carthage, June 24th, 1844, 10 minutes to 10 o'clock a.m. And it's addressed to Jonathan Dunham and all the commissioned and non-commissioned officers and privates of the Nauvoo Legion. You are hereby ordered to comply strictly with the within order of Thomas Ford, Commander-in-Chief. And then the prophet has signed it, Joseph Smith. And that's significant because that is, like I say, the third to the last known autograph that he has. The second to the last known autograph was on the bonds he signed in Carthage jail the next day on the 25th. At any rate, the rest of the story I got to fill in. But you can tell from the document over here, which is a receipt from Dunn. Dunn asked Joseph Smith, "Well, Mr. Smith, that's fine." I think he was surprised he didn't need to use his 60 armed men. Joseph said, if you want to make a change, you do it at the ballot box, not at the end of a bayonet or a pistol. Here he's under tremendous pressure, knowing he's going to the end of his life, but yet he doesn't give up on principle here. And so he orders the governor's order to be followed. I'm sure he handed it back to Dunn, who must have said something to the effect of, "Mr. Smith, that's fine, but I don't think anybody's going to believe me that you signed this order. Would you come back to Nauvoo and disarm your legion for me?" So Joseph turns around, goes all the way back to Nauvoo, helps disarm the legion, and there's a receipt here in James C. Dunn's handwriting saying they got all the augers, cannons, and weapons from the Nauvoo Legion. They disarmed it, okay? And then Joseph rides back to Carthage, doesn't get there till midnight. He's made 2 trips towards Carthage that day and finally gets there just in time for the Carthage Greys, who are supposed to be defending him, to yell out, "Mr. Smith, you and your brother and the rest of us aren't getting out of here alive." And the governor finally had to come out of the bar, Hamilton House, the hotel, and tell him, "Now you quiet down. You'll have an opportunity to interview the Smiths tomorrow." The part of the story that is most important doesn't appear in this document. When Joseph was first handed this piece of paper, he turned to all of his associates and he said, "I now go as a lamb to the slaughter."